Because we tend to think of learning as a very static category, or it seems obvious. Oh, I learned about this thing. I'm acquiring knowledge. But improvising is also a different social action. Like you have to, and the way Andrew described it was that it's a way of knowing. Way of knowing is also interesting. I've been thinking about that because I don't know what it means to know. It doesn't mean that you have to have certainty. It doesn't mean that it comes with, what does it come with? The more I profess, the more I sit in this occupation of being a professor, the more I have to tell students things about the world that I haven't experienced. I can't say that I know that. I don't know what it means to know. I've read it in all these books and I've looked at those footnotes, but I'm telling them about a place and a time and politics that I can only, I'm just imagining at this point.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. Spare time is a lie, one that I've told myself on numerous occasions when it would have better served me to have been more honest about my motivations. Spare time is the black ops, no official accountability part of my life, where there is something that needs to get done and it comes with a price tag that should have me stop and think for a moment, but instead I barrel ahead with the excuse of, I'll do this in my spare time, which always is a lie. Because when you think about it, there is no such thing as spare time. There's just time, and the supply is limited. Time can feel endless, especially if caught up in the tape loop of boredom, anger, or angst. It feels eternal when stuck emotionally or, once again, facing down a dragon of the past. Spare time is the lie I tell myself when a task or idea is enticing and without enough form to plan in a meaningful way. It doesn't have enough mass or substance to get a handle on, or it's so unsettling to take on directly, and so I relegate it to the, air quotes here, spare time, hoping that knocking around the edges of it will give me more clarity. It's not always a bad thing. It takes time for ideas to take shape. It requires unstructured time to allow the mind room enough to unfetter itself from the inertia of schedules, commitments, and concerns. In fact, spare time is another way to say free of time, being unencumbered enough to get unstuck from both what has worked and what hasn't, and allow the imagination some breathing room. It helps to have a bit of liberation from being virtuously productive. Sometimes it helps to leave room for being a pirate, for considering felonies or war crimes, wiggle out of the constraints of being good and proper, and considering what you'd build if the world burned down. If the things named as obstacles were not there, what would that free you up to do? If the constraints on what you consider being good were removed, what would you dare? Freedom brings both responsibility and danger. When you're roaming the frontier of your life, when the stories of what brought you here are thin in influence, where you could go by a different name and nobody would be the wiser. If you could tell a creation story that made you more dangerous and capable, what's the story that you tell? And what kind of danger would you represent? And to whom? It's a misconception, a lie really, that there is such a thing as spare time. It's a kind of magical thinking, and that is actually what I'm aiming at. Some time for creative magic to emerge. Really, I'm looking to slip free of the grasp of time, slip free from the constraint of story and consistency, so the unpredictable spark of innovation has space to kindle. There's really no such thing as spare time, but there is slipping free of time's constraint. It's where you find wildcrafted inspiration. It's where trauma and self-imposed limits loosen their grasp, like looking at an old and faded photo from another time that you remember more as nostalgia than command. You might call it grace, you could call it liberation, or forgiveness, or perhaps it has no name at all, because in the space of the unnamed eternal, there is infinite possibility. Somewhere along the line, we are told to stop playing and get busy with the work of being a productive adult. For sure, there are more responsibilities that require our time and attention, but foregoing play, that's a mistake. I'm not talking about the recreational distraction that often enough gets labeled as play these days. I'm talking about that urge to explore, expand, and learn through abandon and engagement. Having a limber spirit is what allows for the kind of openness that invites new ideas. In this conversation with Lan Li, author of Body Maps, Improvising the Meridians and Nerves in Global Chinese Medicine, we probably talk less about her book than you'll hear on other podcasts. But what we do explore is something of the spark that leads to the catalytic questions that can set you off on a voyage of discovery. It's a fairly long conversation. There's also a part 2 that is being concurrently released because there were some themes and questions that simply wouldn't leave me alone. Luckily for me and you, Lan agreed to continue the conversation. Writing a book is serious business, but that doesn't mean you can't have a good time doing it. If you're a student of the art of acupuncture, I think you're going to enjoy this look into the imaginative landscape of the Jing Law. Buckle up, friends. Here we go. Geological Conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges? Our sponsors have solutions. Blue Poppy offers same-day fulfillment and free shipping on orders over $50. Looking to reimagine your clinical practice? Consider the study of nature's design with Ed Neal at the Apricot Grove. Need to send a custom herbal formula to a patient? Sun10 makes it easy for you with their direct delivery service. Later in the show, Jane has helpful solutions to raising your clinic fees, and Golden Flower Chinese Herbs shares a journey of healing that I think you'll recognize. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Geological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Discover the harmony of tradition and innovation with Sun10. Since 1946, they've been dedicated to bringing the wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine to modern wellness practices. Their extensive range of herbal extracts and supplements is crafted with precision and care, adhering to the highest quality standards. Through Sun10's dispensary, healthcare professionals can easily create personalized herbal formulas delivered directly to their patients' doors. Experience the synergy of ancient knowledge and contemporary convenience. Visit sun10.com to learn more. Are you ready to rebuild your practice through an in-depth study of the original writings of Chinese medicine? Starting August 24th, join Apricot Grove and Dr. Edward Neal on a transformative journey into the roots of Chinese medicine practice. New to the classics, their Wisdom of the Cosmos class offers an ideal introduction to Neijing nature-based medicine. For those seeking a deeper immersion, their highly regarded 2-year postgraduate training in Neijing, nature-based medicine, and classical text archaeology provides a comprehensive pathway to advanced clinical practice grounded in the Neijing text. Come and enjoy a vibrant global community reimagining clinical practice through the traditional writings of the Huangdi Neijing and study of nature's design. Tuition assistance is available. Visit neijingstudies.com to learn more and enroll today. When it comes to running a smooth, efficient clinic, having a reliable supplier makes all the difference. That's where Blue Poppy comes in. From premium acupuncture needles and trusted herbal formulas to innovative solutions like their liquid moxa, a smokeless, low-fume alternative to traditional moxa, Blue Poppy has everything you need all in one place. And the best part, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50 with no restriction in the continental United States. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has supported licensed acupuncturists with high-quality products and a commitment to exceptional service. Visit bluepoppy.com today and discover why so many practitioners trust Blue Poppy. Don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more. Lan Li, welcome to Geological.
Hi, Michael Max. Good to be here.
I'm so happy to have you.
Also congratulations that today is the day that you turned 400 episode old.
I am 400 episodes old today, yes.
Wow.
Today, I always record before I publish because I like to do a little editing, have a few episodes in the can. Today is the 18th of March. Yes, episode 400. Holy smokes.
Wow. And I feel like today is probably an auspicious number. 18th, 1-8. 9 adds up to 9. We could do the numerological thing.
18 is an auspicious number.
Yeah.
It's like in the Jewish tradition, it's like the most auspicious of numbers.
Really? Why? 18.
Yeah, 18.
Is it New Old Testament? Is there something in there?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with numerological. How do you say it? Numerology? I can't even pronounce it. Numerologically.
My dad's into a lot of numerology, so I grew up with him adding up numbers and assigning meaning, and I was just like, now I understand.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older, I'm like,
you get it.
I love to assign meaning to things. It's kind of like you lose meaning. I feel like the more you enter the world, there is a kind of loss of meaning that happens in professionalization. I don't know if you've experienced that. And then an expansion of meaning that comes after that.
Wait a minute. Say that again. Loss of meaning with professionalization?
I feel that. I mean, because you'd mentioned this in a previous episode where, like, becoming a licensed acupuncturist is your learner's permit.
Yes.
And I felt like that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So, but my feeling was, like, in grad school, I felt like I had internalized a lot of fear, and I lost meaning the more professionalized I became, because people were telling me, we were talking about identity earlier, people were telling me what to do, how to speak, just trying to conform. And I feel like that was very, very restraining.
But isn't that how all professions work on people? It's like, we're this kind of professional. We wear these kinds of clothes. We speak this kind of way. Mm-hmm. We walk like this. We don't do that.
Yes.
There's a whole set of codes, so to speak. Some are formal, some are informal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but in some ways that goes along with, like, if you want to ride that ride, then you've got to learn this language. You have to behave this way. And I'm the kind of person that wouldn't join a club that accepted someone like me, right? I'm always out in the weeds. So,
wait, what?
So I've always been like a little nervous about, like, joining any kind of profession. Like, this is, people like us do things like this. We wear this kind of tie. We wear these kind of shoes.
Right.
But I've always been so interested in like what all kinds of different professions do. But yes, if you're going to go deep into it, there's a kind of, like, socialization. Like, so often it seems to me education
Yeah.
is about socialization. Because otherwise, how would we trust you to be one of us? You know what I mean?
Gosh, it has the opposite effect, where the more you socialize and the more you cut away intuition.
Yes.
And the more you trim away idiosyncrasies, it's almost like you lose a trust in your own intuition. And I think that's something that I'm always trying to find, because that's so special. Like, it's no one can teach you that. That's the whole point of the learner's permit. Like, you only know through doing. How can you do if you're just trying to be someone else? Right? Like, that professionalization. I'm like, I understand the political necessity of socialization, but at the same time, it's just like,
exactly.
It cuts away the humanness. Like, it cuts away that kind of, like, that shine that we have in our minds.
It's why I love being an acupuncturist, because I kind of get to do whatever I want.
Really? Oh my gosh. Can you say more?
Wait a minute, whose podcast is it?
I want to ask you questions too. That's so fascinating. That's so fascinating. That's fascinating. That's amazing.
Okay, we'll get into that, and I've got some questions for you.
Okay. All right. I got questions for you too. Okay, please go ahead.
So,
sorry. Welcome to Geological. I'm your host.
This is great. Pseudo 400 episode.
Oh, now I take over. Now your guests take over.
Oh, from here on out, the guests take over. Ooh.
From here on out, it's like exit through the gift shop. You think it's one thing? We take you on. Okay, cool. Continue.
Okay, I got to get back to what we were thinking about. We were talking about both being able to be in a profession, like know how to walk the walk, even if it's the ministry of silly walks, right? You still have to know how to walk that silly walk, especially.
Oh, love the ministry of silly walks.
And we need a certain amount of standardization and professionalization to operate in the world, because that's how the world works these days. And so you need that, okay? You need licensure. You need certain academic standards, because you don't want just anyone coming in and going, yeah, I'm an acupuncturist because I say I am. No, it's like, no, you can't just identify as an acupuncturist and be one. You got to learn how to do that, learn something about it. And yes, you have to pass a certain amount of rigorous tests, right? Because it's important to have 要打好基础, okay? You've got to have the basics down. Like prove you can play the scales before we're going to let you play in the band. So there's that. I get it. I think it's also, and this is why I love doing acupuncture, like room for who you are in the work you do. Like artists get to do that to some degree.
Wow.
I think that's a big reason why people are drawn to being artists. Like, I'm going to channel this thing I've got, and I'm going to share it with the world. I think the practice of medicine allows for that. Maybe not in the Western, what do they call that? Evidence-based, right? Because there's a flow chart, and you got to follow the flow chart, because there are standards and protocols, and if you stray too far and something goes wrong, okay, then now you're in a swamp with alligators and you're going to get eaten.
Well, I wonder, it's so interesting because, I've been thinking a lot. I wonder, the excessive professionalization is what we see at Hopkins. And I mean, I teach medical school students. At Hopkins, it relies a lot on its reputation to engender trust. And yet, the way that it trains medical school students, and I've always... Anytime I train someone or I work with a student who's either pre-health or currently in medicine, I try to at least give them a space to feel like more is possible. But every time I do, I can see how the medical training
snap to grid
is limiting what's possible, right? And so and it's not it's what people like. Even Ivan Illich has been writing about this since the 70s. Like Genguiyam has been writing about this since the 30s, 40s. People have been writing about this for the last 100 years. They've been seeing this increasing focus on diseases, this increasing closing ever since the medical board was established in the early 20th century. It's been closing people out, and it's still doing that because it has so much power and so much money. And it seems like, especially with Asian medicine, global Asian medicine, anyone who wants to play in that sandbox has to match the standards of biomedicine. And that's not, I mean, obviously it's not fair. Obviously it's also this legacy of modernization, colonialism. It's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, well, okay, it's not fair and it's there for a reason. Okay. It's not fair and it's there for a reason. Here's one of the reasons why it's there. Western medicine, the things that it does, and it does really well, best fucking medicine around. Right? You're in a bad accident. You need some pins in your bones. Whoa. And anesthetic. Thank you.
They'll bring you the pins. They'll bring the pins. You're not into pain? Michael, you don't have a tolerance for
Not crazy about it. Yeah. So there's things Western medicine does, and it does it really, really well. Okay. Antibiotics. Miraculous. Are there secondary problems, downstream problems that it's causing? Yes. But look, every solution brings its own problems. So there's that too. right? Evolutionarily, every solution engenders yin yang. Every solution will gender its demise. That's just the way it works, right? So there's great things that Western medicine has done.
That is true. Yeah.
And kudos to them. Super appreciative. There are things that they don't do that well, but it's hard for them to say, well, we don't do that very well.
See, that's it. It's too bad that our standards of collaboration are so low that we just want someone to admit the limits of their knowledge, to be curious. If biomedicine allowed for that, that would make it.
You know what? Personally, I don't care about that. Yeah, because like if you can admit to the limits of your knowledge, that gives you a leg up. Well,
I wish they could do it.
Maybe some of them do. I suspect really good research scientists.
Maybe they do. They do.
The ones that are like real scientists.
Yes.
Not the ones who have a narrative and I'm going to prove this. The scientists who are like, I wonder how this works.
Right.
Let's find out. I've got an idea. I've got a hypothesis. True scientists are as happy to get a no as a yes. Like, I just want to know. Right? But those are a little few and far between. Anyway, you get to be that when you're an acupuncturist. Does this work? Does it not? Let's find out.
That's amazing.
Right? You get to do that in clinic. So back to what you were asking me earlier. I like being an acupuncturist because while there are standards that have allowed me to set up shop and hang out at Shingle, as one of my teachers put it, he said, well, actually, standardization is the enemy. It's helpful to a certain degree. Like if you need some ball bearings for your car so the wheel spins, you really want standard size ball bearings, right?
Ball bearings are great. Yeah, you don't, when they fit, they fit.
Right. There's a place for standards. But when it comes to medicine or art or cooking or love or parenting children, that's like an open field of inquiry. The thing that I like,
wow,
I keep circling around this. I'm going to get around to it, I promise. The thing I like about being an acupuncturist is nobody knows what an acupuncturist really is or does. It's like, okay, a weirdo with needles. It's maybe kind of magic. That's what my friends tell me. But they don't know. People come in and they don't know. And I just find that wonderful because it gives me room to explore with them what's going on with you in a non-standard kind of way.
How cool.
And that's a fun way to go through the day.
Wow.
Because people are very interesting and weird.
That's very cool. You must see a lot of different kinds of people.
I do. It's made me, over the years, much less sarcastic. It's made me much less judgmental. I'm a really judgmental fellow. I really am. I mean, like innately. I'm a judgmental bastard. But that doesn't work when you're trying to help people. And especially if I think I see what the problem is, and it's like, oh, I know what your problem is, and I'm here to fix it. It's like, that gets in the way of helping them, like, heal, become a bigger person. Yeah. Like the next level of development. So that's why it's fun being an acupuncturist. It's a wide open field of inquiry where you kind of get to play and experiment and meet interesting people like you.
That's amazing.
Okay. So you're not an acupuncturist, but I was on your website.
Well, yeah, I'm not an acupuncturist.
I don't do a lot of research on the people I talk to. Sometimes I run across someone or someone says, hey, you should talk to so-and-so. And it's like, okay. Right. And I don't want to know too much about the people I talk to because I want to do that during the conversation. But I mean, you got a really cool book and we're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about that. We're going to get there. But I went to your website and it's got your name and it says Film, History, Health, Humanities. It's right up at the top on your website.
Oh.
It does say that. And I was like,
yeah, it does say that.
No.
I wonder if I should change that. I wonder if I should take that down.
Why would you take that down? I looked at that and I was like, ooh. So tell me about how you end up in a place where your website says Film, History, Health, Humanities. At the same time, you got a PhD and you're teaching at Johns Hopkins. What happened?
Well, so what happened? I don't know. What happened? Well, so I wonder, like, before I get into how, I think I was thinking a lot about this because I've been talking to students to encourage them to like be themselves fully. I didn't think I was going to get into academia ever. My parents are musicians. My grandfather's an artist. My grandmother was a vocalist. On my mom's side, my grandmother was a psychiatric nurse, and my grandfather was like a teacher, principal of an elementary school. So it's just I wasn't in a way like groomed to be this model minority. All my parents said was, don't be an artist because we know how hard it is. And I think for me and my sister, all we've done in our entire lives is to try to suppress our feelings for anything beautiful, because we can see how painful it is. And when you're talking about art, like the role of artists, that really hit me because I live right next to the Maryland Institute of Contemporary Art. I saw someone sitting at the corner at an intersection, like sketching the landscape. And I was thinking, there must be a place in the world for you. What is that place in the world for you? So yeah, so when I became interested, well, I started undergrad thinking I was going to do science because, again, do anything but art. And then I fell into history of science because I was in a lab and I had all these questions that I couldn't answer. I was like doing research on different HIV proteins. And I was, doing all these mini preps and spent the whole summer being a technician. And I had all these questions. I was like, why are we doing this? Who are we helping? Because upstairs, people who are working on treatment are publishing so many more papers. Oh, no. Upstairs treatment, or is it downstairs treatment? People were having a hard time figuring out treatment, but there were so many more papers coming out about the virus. We know so much about the virus, but we couldn't really figure out how to treat people. And this was like almost 20 years ago at this point. But those are questions that I just didn't know where I could find answers to as an undergrad. And then I, fell into history of science, realized that science is there's nothing sacred about science, and it is too important to only belong to scientists. Like, you need humanists, right? To pull apart like meaning and epistemology and really figure out not just the politics, but what inspired people to ask what they asked. To know that, that Newton was a natural philosopher. So that's kind of the early days,
Like, how do you get a good hypothesis?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a creative act right in its own.
And that comes from the things that you, like, how you see things, how you feel, almost how you even feel the wind on your face. Like, meteorology is so complicated. Understanding weather patterns so complicated. We need to know, and so there are all these kinds of like modes of knowing that I'm much more sensitive to now. But then when I was in college, I was kind of my sense was I was bumbling around. I ended up being a video blogger. I was on YouTube. That's when I started editing videos.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic software management I use to keep everything running smoothly. So let's chat about timing for a minute, because when it comes to raising your fees, timing really is everything. A great time to roll out a fee increase is during natural, fresh start periods, like the beginning of the year. People are already thinking ahead, setting new goals, and adjusting their routines. So it's a good time to make a change feel natural. Or you might want to try it in September when everyone's back in school mode and in the mood for a fresh start. For more tips on navigating fee increases, check out frontdesk.jane.app and look for the article, How to Tell Clients You're Raising Your Fees. Jane wants to be a part of your journey in raising your fees with features built to help, like sliding scale adjustments and customized reminder emails. You can take a look at their pricing plans at jane.app/pricing. And if you're ready to get started with Jane, don't forget to use the code CHEOLOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Now, how did you... So hang on a second. You're a student. You're doing science.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't leave the beauty out of it, because even though they're trying to train you out of experiencing beauty, right? You're not having it. You're from a family of artists and educators. And even though your folks say, don't be an artist, it's hard, too bad for you, it's in your blood. Question is, how are you going to do that? That's what I'm hearing. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But the only way that I could do that, well, it's complicated because my parents felt like the only way to have a stable life is to work in academia. They're adjuncts. They're not secure. And that was the only way to find security. And I've watched them struggle in that system. That's not made for them. That's not made for immigrants. That's not made for, I mean, my dad he was studying gamelan music, and he was told that as an Asian person, as a Chinese person, no one would expect him to know anything other than Chinese things. And he writes about, he's really interested in rhythm patterns in West Africa. He's interested in the creation of the chromatic scale and like early Greek, like music theory. He does all these things. And so I saw that. I saw how hard it was for someone who really has a deep passion for knowledge to be told,
swim in your lane.
You don't have a place here. So I just figured, I know English. I can go get a PhD, but I also was thinking I want to make films. At first I was like, I want to make films about science because I wasn't surrounded by people who were working on Asian medicine. I grew up with a lot of it. My dad was doing a lot of martial arts. I grew up with a lot of Qigong. And so I practiced a lot of those. I still do it every day. And I've been doing it since I was 3 or 4, really small.
Part of what you do.
So it's just part of how I see the world.
Yeah. It's how you go through your day.
So yeah, that's kind of.
Tell me about the video blogging. What were you doing? What was your entree?
My entree?
Yeah. I mean,
you said that you were, yeah.
You're like breakaway, right? It's like, okay, I'm in the lab, but there's this other part of me. So tell me about that. Tell me about her.
The video blogging, this was early YouTube days. So 2008, 2007, YouTube, I guess, really started. 2008, I was studying abroad.
Where were you?
And I was in London. I was at UCL. They didn't have I spent just a fall term there, so not very long, 3 months. And I was a Pell Grant student, so I was on scholarship in college.
Love the Pell Grant. Pell Grant got me through school.
It's great. Awesome. Yeah, it's great. And because they also paid, and I didn't think studying abroad was available to me, but the Gilman scholarship, and I think Gilman was a senator. He was a U.S. senator. It's like the baby Fulbright for undergrads. And so they fund a semester abroad. And I think part of that project was to do an outreach project. So I figured I've always wanted to do video editing and vlogging. So I said that would be my project, and it's still online. I had a whole weekly series called An American in London, and I was making music and I was posting vlogs, and I had followers. I wrote up postcards for them. I responded to my comments, and this was, when users were the center of YouTube.
That's right.
And I had a video featured on the front page, and it felt like the people who watched my videos and left comments are just, it felt very nourishing. They were like, thank you so much for this music. Thank you so much for this video. Thank you so much for brightening my day. Like things, just simple things. We weren't even 20 yet. Like we were young. We were all these like young kids trying to figure out how to, just how to be.
Yes.
So that was the vlogging days.
Amazing tools in the process of figuring out how you be, right? We didn't have tools like that when I was a kid. We had, cameras, and video cameras didn't even come along until later, right? I had a friend in high school who was into Super 8. He would make Super 8 movies.
Amazing.
Amazing. And it was like expensive and time consuming and all that. So we had those tools. It's great. It's wonderful finding yourself stepping out into the world. You got no idea what the world's about. And mostly, I don't know how it looked for you, but for me, it was like, what do I do with this? And what do I do with me?
And there's no answer. There's just practice. You just do, right? I don't know if I have an answer.
Here's something that I think, this is one of my current working hypotheses as far as making sense of life, the universe, and everything. Certainly when I was younger, I was really looking for some answers, right? A lot of people are looking for answers. I have found over time answers to be, well, first of all, they have a shelf life. Secondly, they're not nearly as good of a traveling companion as a couple of good questions.
What? That makes sense. Yeah.
Right? Like the questions is what I suspect. The questions is what took you into the video blogging.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I like making music videos. I like the visual rhythm. I like visual and sonic composition. And even now, I still freelance. But I choose what projects I work on. So one of my colleagues' friends is fundraising for an energy and healing institute. And I made a trailer. I still have to edit that later today, but I made a trailer for that. I love the emotional attachment and the vision you get to see. Like he's creating something that doesn't exist. And I like to make it seem possible. And another colleague friend of mine, when I was faculty at Rice, works on helium-3 mining. Doesn't exist on the moon. Helium-3 mining on the moon to solve like energy problems on Earth.
Wait a minute. What kind of mining?
Helium-3 mining. So it's like it's like
helium-3 mining. I don't even know what helium-3 is.
It's not. I'll send you the trailer. It's a way to apparently like helium-3 is super dense energy, and if you had and it's nuclear, but it doesn't release heat, so it's not going to destroy anything. The inverse happens. It cools down when you use it. But just even a single, like a tabletop disk of helium-3 could apparently run or provide energy for all of New York for a whole year. And it's just a tabletop. Like it can whatever energy that is. And so I had never heard of this. And he's working with former astronauts at NASA, and it's a whole thing, but it doesn't exist yet. And so I love making trailers for that, where you can see what's possible, and it doesn't exist. None of this exists.
None of it. Is there such a thing as helium-3, or there is such a thing?
There is such a thing. Helium-3. There is a small amount on the Earth, but there's a large amount. It's solar deposit. So flares from the sun, solar deposit from the sun that is on the moon, and they're trying to find where the deposits are. And it's very, very cool. I don't even know if I should be talking. I should ask David. It probably is public knowledge, but yeah, helium-3.
That's okay. This is a podcast for acupuncturists.
How do you do? Yeah, I also no one's going to be like, you know what? I really need to get into the energy sector. My whole life is about not energy in the body, but nuclear fission. Is it nuclear fission or nuclear fusion? See, I should probably know the difference.
Fusion is what the sun does.
But yes, fusion. I guess fission takes a lot more energy to destroy. Nuclear fusion.
Well, what we've been using is fission.
I could just look up, yeah.
Like for the nuclear energy, because it like fizzes outward. That's how I always remembered it. Fusion is where you're putting things together.
That makes sense.
To create the energy, like the sun does.
Beautiful. So that's a long way, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it apparently a long way from Chinese medicine, but is it? Because look, with Chinese medicine, we're talking about yin yang. We're talking about 5 phases. Mm-hmm. You got stems and branches. I mean, we have our creation stories and our cosmology and our way of kind of tracking time and influences. Right? It's an ancient science.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's probably much older than we think. Much, much older than we think. Like just because we have the Huangdi Neijing, well, there were so many other texts before that. So many other practices before that, right? So I always wonder.
Yeah, it's good to wonder.
Because there are these dynasties like the Shang and all these like, and the Zhou, like all these other like, and maybe it's not just dynastic. I mean, they're people, it's just a reference point because I'm sure there are many, many people who had all sorts of ways of understanding the body and the stars.
Which is a great segue into asking about this book of yours.
Oh, yes.
I want to ask about this book of yours. So it's called Body Maps. And okay, so look, you're a visual and rhythmic artist. So the subtitle, Improvising Meridians and Nerves in Global Chinese Medicine. Improvising Meridians. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, what a great title. How did you come up with that?
Oh, thank you. Oh man.
Where'd that come from?
No, it was no. So I went to grad school at MIT. Was surrounded by scientists. I was never far from science.
Oh my God, MIT? That is so geeky.
And so it's a whole place. It is a place. It's a whole place. It's fascinating because I was in their history, anthropology, and science studies program.
Wait a minute. Hang on.
I had no idea.
I'm going to show my ignorance here.
Yes.
I thought MIT was this like engineering school for super engineering geeks.
It is, yeah.
I didn't realize that they had a department.
Yeah. They have a whole school of humanities because they can't be accredited without having a humanities school.
I did not know that. So that's where you were.
So the people who, yeah. So I was there and the anthropology department was much more focused on more science focused than the history department, but the grad students connected into science studies. There was no one at that program was working on Asian medicine or history of medicine when I was there as a grad student. And so I had to kind of satellite navigate, and I was working on this. I've always been interested in that phrase that people say that when you use acupuncture, you're needling at nerves. And I always wondered, that doesn't seem to make sense. Or even when like there is the standing phrase, 中医不科学, like Chinese medicine is not scientific. And none of that made sense to me. When you study the philosophy of science, history of science, there's so much, it's meant to take apart and undermine all of these assumptions we have about the scientific revolution, about how knowledge is made, about all the appropriation that happened with the world society. You learn about all of these myths that are, you take apart these myths in histories of science. But you don't see Asian medicine represented or like science knowledge systems originating or associated with Asia in any of that history. So I wanted to bring that in. And I also wanted to say, how can we use Asian practices to rethink biomedicine, to even change how we think about anatomy? And so Jingluo were my way in. When I say meridians, it's just the images. And so that's how I started the project, was at MIT. But then it really changed when I was a postdoc at Columbia, and it was called, at the time, it's a program called the Presidential Scholars in Society and Neuroscience. So I was with neuroscientists. I was working in a touch lab. I was teaching courses. And one of my colleagues there, two of my colleagues were both looking at music perception and improvisation. So shout out to Andrew Goldman, one of my friends from that program. He was trying to understand the neuroscience of improvisation and studying improvisation. And we talked a lot about that.
Wait a minute, the neuroscience of?
He's more into philosophy of mind too. Mm-hmm.
Of improvisation.
Of improvisation.
The neuroscience of improvisation.
Yeah. Creativity. How do you create something new within constraints? Who might be better at it? But what does it even mean to study creativity? Mm-hmm. Or what does it mean to generate new ideas? Isn't that wild?
Isn't this what humans innately naturally do?
Yeah. Learning. What's the difference between learning and improvising?
Oh.
Right?
Wow. Hang on.
So it would, go ahead. Okay, I'll stop. Yeah.
I just want to say this. What's the difference between learning and improvising? That's a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't know. But I hear you ask that question. What's the difference between learning and improvising? And I think you just, no pun intended, put a pin in something really essential about clinical practice with acupuncture. Maybe clinical practice, period, but certainly clinical practice with Chinese medicine.
Wow. Huh. What are you thinking?
At the moment, I am less thinking and more feeling. I'm having images flash through my mind of being in clinic, and I'm constantly asking myself, what is this? What's happening with this person? First of all, who is this person? What's happening with them? How might I be able to help? Where's a good place to intervene? Not too much, not too little. Like cooking a fish, right?
Is that how you cook a fish? I've never cooked a fish before. Is it that?
Yeah, you don't want to, like cooking a fish is delicate work in a sense, because if it's undercooked, that's not right. There's a place where the fish is like, oh, it's just perfect. It's flaky. It's moist. You go just a moment too longer and it's dried out. So cooking a fish is kind of a delicate, small window.
There's a very small window of, yeah, okay.
But I feel like I'm constantly learning in my work as a practitioner. And yes, I will admit it, constantly improvising. It's the fun part of the day. I've got an idea. I think it's this. Let's find out. I'm going to put a needle in here. What'd that do to the pulse? How's that tissue feel? This place on the abdomen is no longer painful. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Or maybe nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sometimes you just want to, like nothing, like not too much. So yes, the difference between learning and improvising, I'm going to have to sit with that one for a while. That feels potent. That's a potent inquiry.
Because we tend to think of learning as a very static category, or it seems obvious. Oh, I learned about this thing. I'm acquiring knowledge. But improvising is also a different social action. Like you have to, and the way Andrew described it was that it's a way of knowing. Way of knowing is also interesting. I've been thinking about that because I don't know what it means to know.
You don't know what it means to know. Really?
What does it mean does it mean that you have to have certainty? Does it mean that it comes with, what does it come with? The more I profess, the more I sit in this occupation of being a professor, the more I have to tell students things about the world that I haven't experienced. I can't say that I know that. I don't know what it means to know. I've read it in all these books and I've looked at those footnotes, but I'm telling them about a place and a time and politics that I can only, I'm just imagining at this point. And so, and that feels, and which is why I bring students into community centers. I try to bring them into, I'm just thinking about the world outside of the classroom, because that's not a good space of learning or knowing or even improvising. It's just sitting in a chair usually. So could they do something? And whenever I work with undergrads, my goal is for them to think about Asian medicine. Again, if they're pre-health, think about going to acupuncture college or just think about a different path. And I don't know how well it's worked. Maybe it's worked for like one person, but maybe more. Who knows? The world is changing. There are more people, like more and more students who want to learn about Asian medicine, the history, the practice, because their parents do it and they want to see a space for it in their education. So I think there's change happening. But yeah. So yeah, improvising. Well, and go ahead.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what Andrew discovered about the neurobiology of improvisation? The neurobiology. That
it's hard to study. It's hard to study. Michael, it's hard to study. That's what you learned. It was, so I can send you some of his stuff. He is so creative. He also writes music, and he, begrudgingly has to also deal with AI and learning, AI and composition, AI and improvisation. And that's another big topic, because when I was in the postdoc, something that we talked a lot about was how neuroscience relies on a lot of metaphor, even the neurobiology. Neurotransmitters only existed after World War II when you had transmitters, when you had radios. And so, and even the amygdala has, like the word amygdala has an etymological connection with an almond. Nobody knew what it was. Hippocampus, seahorse. So you have all these structures named in the brain to assume that somehow it can tell you about the human mind. But so much of what we say is in the human mind rests on metaphor, powerful metaphors.
Powerful metaphors, because my suspicion is whoever named it, who's ever looking at this, this is their version of video blogging. This is their version of something creative. We're trying to understand the structures of the brain, whatever, but we've never seen it. And how do you make sense of it? Well, we make sense using the models we already have in our mind, right? Like the heart is a pump.
You need to have a pump first.
Right? Because look, when they first started really looking at that, right? It's back in steampunk days, right? Steam engines. And these days we talk about our brain as being like a computer.
And you need a computer first, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So humans, we're constantly taking our maps of the world, however they are, and like seeing, can we extend that into this thing we don't know yet? How do you make a language for the unknown?
That's exactly what neuroscience is. Yeah.
God, neuroscience sounds cool.
Well, I think. It sounds, but also I was thinking, so Vivian Lowe is doing work related to this where Jingluo, these kind of earlier material metaphors of Jingluo are connected to weaving, the Jing of the warp of a loom. And we've lost that material metaphor because very few people, weaving is not really part of our everyday modern life. We don't sit at a loom. We don't set up the loom. We don't really know the names of the parts. We don't know how complicated it is, but it would take days. It would take so much of your time to set it up, to pull the strings tight, and then to set your pattern. And I mean, those technologies still exist. They exist not in urban centers usually, at least not in the US, maybe in other parts of the world. Maybe you grew up in Accra and you know a weaver, but not, at least not in Baltimore. You can weave, you have people making scarves, smaller objects, but not tapestries, not real textiles that are meant to change your world. But that was also material metaphor for like Jingluo, the Jing in your body.
Which wove it together, which weaves it together.
So, yeah. Yes.
I mean, the channels weave the body together.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It gives a structure.
It's really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And you can feel it. I mean, do you feel it? I feel it.
Tell me how you feel it.
But you must feel, or I feel it, well, let's say. So I definitely feel de qi. I feel all the different sensations. I feel things traveling. I don't feel them all at once. If I'm visualizing them, depending on if I'm doing my morning practice, I can sense it outside of my body. Like it's internal, but it's also external. Like your renmai, dumai, it creates a kind of force outside of your body almost, you know, like it's this thing, like it's traveling, and it is directional, and it is separate from the other 12经. So like if someone is, and you know, you can feel it in your stomach 36. Oh my gosh, my stomach 36 is always so thirsty. It's always so thirsty. Yin Tang is always just like, I mean, but those are more of the sights rather than the paths. And so, yeah, I can't visualize all of the 14 paths, but the Renmai Dumai is definitely, it's my favorite pair. I don't, yeah.
It's your favorite pair. Well, I mean, it's a powerful pair.
Mm-hmm.
You were describing your sense of it as being both inside and outside the body. And I have heard other practitioners speak to, and I would say at this point, I'm entertaining the idea, and I think this is probably part of the way that we're structured in this world, that the channels, including the Qijing Ba Mai, right, the extraordinary vessels, are both inside the body and to some degree outside the body. They are actually what connects us to the rest of the world.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much, also because some of these earlier images of the channels, they're like, some people draw them outside the body. Like here, it jumps to here, and then over time, when you get to the 20th century, they become more, people are obsessed with the skin, sticking images of the paths to the skin.
Oh, the more material body.
Right. You think that it's, and that's why a lot of research is still fixated on the photograph. They're like, let's get a fluorescent dye. Let's see if we can look at this through x-rays. Let's see if we dig up a mummified corpse, if there are imprints of these paths on the abdomen. Maybe this is this expression, this corporeal expression that we can only see with our flesh eyes. And yet, part of the idea of the book is that these paths, you can't photograph them. And they are so incredibly robust throughout millennia. And they're only ever drawn by hand because they exist through this very simple technology, this long-lasting technology that's meant to expand your imagination. It's not meant to be realistic. It's not meant to be a hua. It's not meant to be a xiang. It's a tu. Yeah.
It's meant to expand your imagination. Medicine as a method of expanding imagination. You asked me earlier why I like being an acupuncturist. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity to expand my imagination and get away with it in a socially acceptable way and earn some money and help people.
That sounds like a great job. You sound like you have a great job. That sounds amazing.
But I like that it's medicine as a way of expanding the imagination. That, again, it's a great question. How does medicine expand the imagination? What's the role of the imagination in medicine? These are really potent inquiries.
Do you think that I was in Toronto last week talking about the book, and I had a student come up to me asking me about the role of imagination. And it's underexplored because it's so powerful. And earlier I was listening to your interview with was it Lindsay Way on talismans?
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I was listening to your interview with her, and you're both talking about how recitation makes the practice a part of you. And then when you speak it already exists inside, and you're offering that into the world because it already becomes a part of you. And I wonder, for imagination, it's not even so much, and we like to use this language of a rational mind, even though the mind it's a whole thing. It's a whole can of worms. It's a messy can of worms.
It is a messy can of worms.
It's a messy can of worms. But like the imagination, the more you work with it, it is also part of you. And I was wondering, not related to imagination, but do you think that the channels are universal? Like when you have a new patient come in, my sense is, I have complex, I don't know, maybe I have a ambivalent about universality, but I sense it's like, maybe it is. But do you think that as a practitioner, these channels are universal? Everybody has them, but maybe in different intensities, or maybe not. I don't know.
Wow, that's a really interesting question, because it brings into question an orthodoxy of Chinese medicine, which is, of course it has channels. How could you be a human without it? How could you be a life form without it? Because critters have them too, right? Your bunnies and your kitty. Yes. Yeah. Right? They have channels.
Oh, my bunnies. Yes. Their G20s on their neck.
One of the ways that I really knew acupuncture was something. It was about halfway through acupuncture school. And I've been curious about, like, how the hell does this stuff work? That's what took me to school. As I was working my high-tech job.
Oh, how was that? Where was that?
It was in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, great. Seattle. Amazing.
Yeah. And I've been about a year and a half into the study, and we had this cat, beautiful calico cat, who was getting a little up in age. She might have been 9 or so at that point. I can't remember. But she had a little trouble going up and down the stairs. And I thought, oh, I should just acupuncture the cat, right? Really sweet kitty would often sit next to you, but rarely sit on you. Okay. So I got her one day when she was kind of quiet, like half asleep in a nap. I took her, I put her on my lap, and I thought, well, what would I do for a human? I'm going to do this for the cat, right? You just transpose those channels, those points. I put a few needles into the cat, and the cat just like goes to cat acupuncture land and hangs out in my lap for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. This cat never hangs in anybody's lap for 20 minutes.
I know. Yeah.
And took the needles out, and like for the next few weeks, she could scamper up and down the stairs like she was, like it knocked 4 years off her life, right? She was younger. Turn back the hands of time on the kitty.
Wow.
And, every few weeks she would need another treatment, and she'd be fine.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, man, this stuff really, there's a reality to it.
Do you take her pulse? Did you palpate her?
No, I didn't take her pulse. I was just worked meridian wise,
You just sensed the, yeah.
Year and a half into it, halfway through acupuncture school.
Wow.
Just, hit the heavy hitter points.
Which points did you use?
It's been a long time. I think like gallbladder 34, a couple, gallbladder 30.
Interesting.
Something in her lower back, like just palpate for like where she needed them.
Yeah. Wow. See, I wish I could needle my bunnies.
You can.
I'm sure they would love it. I just need to. My mom was a barefoot doctor. She trained with the needles.
Yeah. Your mom was a barefoot doctor.
And so I just need to get some needles, and she can maybe feel for them.
Okay.
She was in the countryside. Oh.
All right. So look, you do have some medicine in your background. Look at you.
Oh, there's that. Yeah, there's that. We have. I mean, she never taught me, but she always wanted to. I think maybe it's because of her feeling for music that she wanted to. She just had a talent for it. This was when she was really young. I think she was a teenager, middle school into high school, which was around the time that she was sent to the countryside. So she was doing the forced labor and then also shadowing Lao Zhongyi.
Oh, wow.
So she was seeing some of, she would just go shadow, and it was so interesting. This is what I want to. So this body maps book is not about practice. It's all about the images, and it's trying to make a particular kind of argument to talk about invisible anatomy, and it's trying to at least have. It's meant for people who aren't might be skeptical of Asian medicine. They're not really sure about what to do with it, and it's trying to give them a language to talk about it, to not say that this is so strange or this is so whatever. And it makes neuroscience strange because it talks about how a lot of these nerves are more improvised because no one looks at peripheral nerves. It's just too complicated. No one really studies the innervation of bones, the way nerves wrap around vessels. No one talks about how the way you sense light touch is actually not through mechanosensory neurons or nerves. It's actually through another kind of cell called a Merkel cell that's not even classified as a neuron. Like, we have so many different kinds of cells that take sensation, and that is so poorly studied because so much money goes into the mind. So that's another.
Are you saying that neurology is not nearly as, I want to say physical, but that's not quite the right word? It's not as solid as we've been led to believe.
Mm-hmm. It is not as solid as we've been led to believe. It is, and this is one of the reasons why images are so important. A lot of scientists spend so much time on their images, making the images, adjusting the contrast, writing about how much contrast they adjusted, figuring out how much of their fluorescent dye actually took. And that's why images are made to train you to look at evidence a certain way and to think about evidence a certain way. But even if you think about what an MRI scan is, it's just looking at blood oxygenation. It's not even looking at thoughts. It's just like, oh, how much oxygen is going to this part of your brain? And then we have rough resolution, however many voxels it is, rough resolution of those images. And we make claims about the brain that for neurologists or neuroscientists who do brain scans, they'll tell you that so much of that activity is not localized. It's scattered all over. There's no reward center. There's no learning center.
Imagine this. A patient walks into your clinic. They're carrying more than the pain in their body. There's a story there. A history woven with the stress of long days, the ache of things unsaid, and the quiet longing for something to shift. You listen, not just with your ears, but with your hands, your intuition, your heart. It's not just about needles or a formula. It's about connection. Understanding the threads that tie us together, mind, body, and spirit. That is where golden flower Chinese herbs comes in. Rooted in tradition and crafted with care, their formulas are more than herbs. They're a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern practice. Every bottle, a quiet partner in your work, helping you to meet your patients where they are. Because healing isn't just about treating symptoms. It's about creating trust, cultivating belonging, and helping someone feel truly seen. Golden Flower Chinese Herbs, your partner in practice and connection, where tradition meets care. Okay, hang on a second. There's no reward center. So what about all this stuff we hear about dopamine these days? You know, dopamine, the great reward molecule.
Yeah.
That feels so good.
Yeah.
It does feel good.
It does feel good.
What I think I hear you saying, and often, they talk about, it homes to these cells in the brain or to this or to that. There's like a pleasure center. And they found those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like there is an olfactory cortex. Yeah.
I would suspect it's entirely possible there are these centers or plexes where things come together, but there's also something in the periphery that's non-localized, non-centralized.
And this is one of the reasons why when I was actually it was so interesting. So my friend who I'm working with, Martin Picard, he came up to me at a event that I organized on metaphor and models in neuroscience. And he asked me, is qi a metaphor for mitochondria? Because mitochondria generate energy. And it was so interesting because mitochondria send their DNA outside of the cell. It breaks It sends it out outside of tissues. It travels all over the body. It's not about a center. They talk to each other. And so it connects this whole system.
Wait a minute. Did you say mitochondria send their DNA outside of their cell?
They send their DNA out. And they send all these signals.
So there's mitochondrial DNA floating all around the place. We're swimming in a soup of mitochondrial DNA.
Yep. It's just like it's just like it's communicating. Your body and that's why I find it so interesting. Like, this book is not about the brain. It's about sensation and the body and imaging the body that doesn't center on the brain. Because if you look at these earlier neijing or neijing tu, it's suihai in the head, and even the word nao historically just meant skull. It's just this cavern, and you have so much stuff flowing. And I'm not saying that, if you have brain damage, if you have aphasia, that it's not real. It's not what I'm saying. It's just like, if you look at what people paid attention to anatomically, this was all fluid. You have the suihai going down to the spine, and that's what's in there. It's a yin kind of fluid. It's, you've got the suihai, qihai, xuehai, shuihai, and it's doing things, but it manifests so specifically. And it's not about the brain. It's about the 五脏六腑. So that's kind of how when I come into neuroscience, and even with the book, it's about sensation and nerves that don't center on the brain.
You're talking about these fluids, and the central nervous system swims in fluid, right? It swims in cerebral spinal fluid. There's a blood-brain barrier that prevents impurities from coming into that palace.
Loaded.
Yeah. So this improvisation project of yours, and I was wondering why the title included nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I can get meridians because I'm an acupuncturist, but like nerves. Now, in talking with you, in hearing how neurology, there's a lot of improvisation going on. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot more there. It's not as cut and dry.
Mm-hmm. A lot more. Mm-hmm.
As you would open up a Grey's Anatomy book and like, oh, look, there's the neurological system. Where I suspect you've seen this. Oh, God, what was the name of it? Is it Bodyworks?
Oh, the museum, the display,
the displays of
all the different people, like the kind of
the different corpses, and like all the different tissues and
the tissue. Yeah. Oh, in high school they had an exhibition we went to multiple times before. It was before all the ethics exploded with where the bodies came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. Yeah, they had chickens, they had animals. Yeah.
I saw that when I was in Taiwan.
Oh.
And I remember looking like, wow, there's the vascular system, and you see just the vascular system. Or there's the neurological system, and there's just the neurological system. And it was like looking at alien life forms.
Yeah.
That are part of us. And it's fascinating, and there's something very tangible about it. Like, oh, that's what that is. There's that thing. There's the neurology. And this is where I think Chinese medicine, acupuncture in particular, gets to be so interesting. Because we're looking at forms, and we want to work with the form, but there's also all this stuff that has to do with function. And function gets weird. You were just talking about, like, light touch. It involves Merkel cells, which aren't technically...
They don't have axons. They don't have dendrites. They're cute little balls.
So they're not part of the neurological system, but they're in some way connected with the neurological system. So this is where I think it gets interesting with anatomy in particular, because you've got all the things, but then you've got all the interactions with the things. You were talking about the brain, how much of it has non-local processing. So in doing this book, where do you start with this book of yours?
I start in Brazil.
You start in Brazil. A book on Chinese...
I start in Brazil.
Science, meridians, Jing law starts in Brazil. I don't know. how do you get away with this?
It's like, who does this belong to, you know? I don't know. You let me.
I mean,
you don't say this is, yeah.
No, I mean, how it's like, what I mean by how do you get away with this? I mean, it's just, I'm a little bit in awe. I'm kind of starstruck at how you have managed to do some great sciencey stuff with the heart of an artist. And the book begins in Brazil. How's it happen that the book begins in Brazil? How'd that come about?
It's, I mean, because it says the part of the title is Global Chinese Medicine. And there's this, what I didn't want to do was to say, this is the history of Chinese medicine. I never say that I specifically work on Chinese medicine. I understand that it's a very recent term. It carries a lot of weight, but it belongs to so many people. It has meaning to so many people. And it's not just Chinese. Like we have Kampo, we have Korean medicine. Like it has been very global ever since, even before the Silk Roads, like even before that, let's say roots, because they're also maritime roots. But like Buddhist monks are carrying needles or cups, or, you know, maybe they're made of bamboo or maybe they're made of stone. They're carrying them around with them. You have Islamic medicine talking about cupping, and it's just people are walking and moving around in the 6th and 7th century, and maybe even earlier people are moving around. It's always been global. And so when I talk about this, I only say Chinese maybe like twice, but I start in Brazil because I want to use the words like acupunctura or moxibustão, and I want to use those words to at least shift our attention away from Chinese medicine. Even though the practitioner who I worked with in Sao Paulo, Nilza Dominguez, she sees herself as a traditional Chinese medical practitioner, but she does distance acupuncture using tools in homeopathy, and she calls it her particle accelerator. During COVID, she was treating people on Zoom with a body map, so she would walk us through that. She talked about that process. And when she was presenting it, the former director of the integrative medicine program at the NIH was like, that device that she calls a particle accelerator, that comes from homeopathy. And it's just this like,
and what is this device?
It was, I have to find the specific name. I didn't write about it in the book. And it opens with that to say, what do I mean by Chinese medicine, global Chinese medicine? And I never call the tool, I never say that these images are a Chinese medicine chart. I never use that word. I try to give them new names so that we can compare. Like I make the neuroscience images sound strange because they are strange. Like they shouldn't be so familiar. We shouldn't take them for granted. Like I call images like man with flaps, I don't say man with feet, but like man with hat, man with whatever. Like, and they're usually male, but like I give them those kinds of names rather than saying this is a Western, etc. Like, so I try to avoid those big binaries, because if we get specific, then we can make comparisons and then we can see them differently. And so that's why the book starts in Brazil, and it's going to be for the second book film project. I'm hoping that it can be more of like an ethnography, really have more film and talk about practice. Because again, this book is not about practice. It's just about the images. Mm-hmm. And this new project, I mean, I have another project on numbness project on numbness, but like this other project I'm hoping to work on will be more about practitioners and about the things that they carried, the music that they made, the lights the torches that they used, things like that, like different kinds of objects, so that we can just see it slightly differently. So that's why the book starts in Brazil.
I often think of acupuncture in the West as a newish kind of thing. And so I appreciate your going back to the Silk Road and before that in terms of recognizing the incredible exchange between peoples and cultures. Things of value change hands. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. Why would you carry around something that didn't have value? You wouldn't. Why would you share something or sell it or trade it for something else if it didn't have value? And so this dilates my time frame here to recognize that people have been walking around with needles or stones or cups or an understanding of just how to put your hands on the body and do things. And we've been doing it for a long time.
It's an old science. Like you said, this is an old science, an ancient science.
It's an ancient science. And, this is also where it gets a little tricky for me because, on one hand, it's an ancient science. I mean, if you understand the characters, you can go read books like the Shanghan Lun or the Huangdi Neijing, right? And feel connected to where that came from and what these people are talking about. At the same time, it's so far away, it might as well be the Andromeda Galaxy. So I get curious, and maybe you can help me think about this. Maybe you can help me to frame this. That in some ways, as practitioners, and I think we fetishize this to a degree, that, I'm connected to this ancient medicine. And in some ways, yes, but in some ways, like no. Because we have at least for me, I think I've made the cognitive mistake of, because I practice this medicine goes back to, a certain spot in time, it means I'm connected to those people in time. And in some ways, yes, but I love the image that you've given me of traders on a trade route. Carrying something of value, it only has value and utility as it is exchanged and understood in that moment. So while we might be connected to the great masters, it's only as it comes alive in us in some way in this moment that allows us to be of utility to somebody else that it actually has any meaning.
I mean, this is something I've always been fascinated with, is that, yes, there are, everyone has different levels of skill. And I don't know what the barrier to entry for something like acupuncture is. I don't know if definitely I've felt for different people who lay hands on me, just as someone who receives this practice, you can feel it's different. When someone walks by me, spleen 4 will light up, on my foot, even if they're just walking by. If it's my acupuncturist, if he walks by my feet, spleen 4 goes do. He's not going to needle it, but I can now locate different sites on my body that respond just because he's my acupuncturist. So I thought that was, it's not even great masters. It's just people next to you. It's lateral. Who is the Huangdi? Who is this Huangdi? Why does he get to be the head of all this? Why does he have his name? And it was there's this whole idea that Huangdi was not Han. He's actually a non-Han person. He's from he moved. He's of a nomadic origin or whatever. I know nomad is a complicated category, but it's, who's Huangdi? This yellow emperor. Anyway, yeah.
You were just talking about your spleen 4 lighting up around your acupuncturist. And that makes me think about what you were talking about a moment ago with neurology, that there's ways we have of sensing. And your spleen 4 is part of your neurological, it's part of your sensorium. So you can also see the Jing law as an aspect of the sensorium. It's something that we perceive through, and something that I think we could probably, I've not had this thought before, so here's a little improvisation as we learn together. So the channels are both like antennas for receiving, but I think they can also fa, right? They can emit. I think they can transmit as well as receive.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never thought that before, except in this moment. So that's an interesting thing to consider next time I walk into clinic.
I always think about whenever I start even though I'm not good at still breathing, I'm not good with stilling my mind. If I can get 5 seconds, I check that box and I sit there for an hour, but I still for 5. So I don't think, but every time I start, I think about the antenna.
Why do you think you should be good at it? You're a human.
I'm not saying that I should be. I'm just giving a disclaimer. I'm just saying, as a human, I'm not good at trying to contain that. But I do think of it as an antenna. I'm just as long as I light this antenna up and I whatever, if I want to think about the Tong Tian or the Tong whatever, that's kind of maybe my standards are too low, being a very, very ordinary whatever. Humans are very messy but cool.
Yes.
It's kind of fascinating.
We're messy but cool.
Whatever. It's a whole thing. We're messy but strange. But you have kind of much more grace in working with people and withholding judgment to help them, to heal them, to really, yeah. So, yeah.
It's a practice. I fail at it all the time. I catch myself all the time, right? There's little comments that go through and it's like, yeah, that's not helpful. That's a snarky remark. Shut up. You know, it's like, yes.
Wait, do you say that to yourself? That's like, yeah.
I say it to myself, like, that's not helpful. And you know, it's not. So just stop it. All right. Pay attention. There's someone here who needs your help.
Shout out to, what is it? Yokang acupuncture.
Yongkang Zhongyizhensuo here in
Yongkang. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's, I mean, I think so. There's so much more to say about antenna, but I think the book just scratches the surface. All it's trying to do is to level the playing field. That's all it's trying to do.
Level the playing field.
It took me level the playing field to level down neurology and level up the Jingluo. It's just doing that. That's all it's doing. It's all it's doing. It took me 15 years to figure out how to do that. And that's why it spans 10 centuries. Like I extended, my bunny is scratching the door, but I had to expand. I had to go back in time. I went from the 19th century to the 18th and then to the 13th. Like I go back in time because I had to at least to level, and to write about complicated things in a way that's accessible, because it's so easy to make things sound complicated and to confuse people. And that's not what this is about. It's about trying to give language. Like you said, how do you give language to something that you don't know? And this was trying to create a future, to create a path for these images, and to say, and again, to without these big binaries. And it's so subtle. Like it's really, really subtle, and it's hard work. But I hope that this book does that. And I hope it's something that, I mean, it's also open access. There's a 30% discount code on the website if you want a physical copy. But I hope it's an object of value that people can also trade. I hope it's something that like you can give away to help that, because it's supposed to give Asian medicine a different kind of future. That's the hope.
Something of value to trade.
You gave that to me.
It's how nature works. Nature works through exchange. Nature trades value for value. The simplest is we exhale carbon dioxide and trees go, thank you, I need that. Thank you, so good. Here, I want to get rid of this nasty oxygen. Like, whoa, oxygen, thank you. Thank you. Nature works by exchange. And when there's not exchange, nature gets sick. And I think it's true with humans. Whether it's our emotional relationships, our financial relationships, our business relationships, our relationship with ourself. You know, I can sit in clinic and be like, Michael Max, quit being such a snarky bastard right now when I'm being judgmental of a patient, because, you know, I've built up a little trust and value with that part of me that's snarky. You know, he also, you know, the snarky part also is wildly creative and improvisational. So, you know, I don't want to get rid of that, but it, you know, it comes along with a court gesture-ish kind of character who, you know, there's a place for him, but there's a place not for him.
The place for play.
Place for play. Yeah.
And the place not for play. That's not meant to be everywhere, but it needs to have a place.
Has to have a place. Yes.
Because it's also alive.
And I find whatever work I'm doing, I suspect you do as well, with, you know, a website that starts off with film, history, human humanities, that if there's not a place for that play, well, why bother?
Yeah. It makes me think about, it goes back full circle to professionalization.
Ah, great. Yes.
Yeah.
Professionalization does not like play. No. And
that's what makes it hard.
This is a piece of the rift in our system.
I don't know if professionalization, because it's so antithetical to play, that it doesn't have a language for it either. Another language, a way to talk about it, because play requires a certain amount of, I think, I could be wrong, but I think it requires a certain amount of innocence and like vulnerability. And maybe that's why adults have improv or stand up, like, you know, we have like shows about stand up, about adults having a space.
We outsource it
to like just Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It's tricky, but it's true that even in the work that I do now, I think maybe what I'm searching for, what I provide for my students is a space to explore, to play for trial and error, but I don't always know where that space is for myself because I have to be contained in a professional box so that I can be a cog. And I think all of this work, talking to you, having this exchange, is a space of that spark, because there are still rules. Like I still have to say I'm faculty at X university. I have to say those things, but like it's a container.
And containers are important in any alchemical process of transformation. So there's that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully, yeah.
And anytime you're going through a change, having some kind of solidity along with the uncertainty, it's like you need a bit of both. Too much uncertainty and it really it goes bad quick. But it's hard to get away from uncertainty. And at the same time, in any creative endeavor, like the uncertainty is part of the fun. Like this may not work, but I'm going to go find out.
How long will you stay to find out? Like, when do you give up if you don't? Like, how long is that? Like, how much time do you have?
You got your life. And I think, and again, we're circling back to something earlier. I think this piece fits. Let's find out. I was talking about answers and questions. That answers have a shelf life and questions go a lot further.
Mm-hmm. A good travel companion, you said. That's yeah.
A good travel companion. Yes. So, like, how long do you stick with something if it's not working? Which I think is a really good question, because any worthwhile thing, at some point, it's like, I don't know what's going on here. Any worthwhile endeavor that involves some transformation, there's going to be a liminal zone. There's going to be a place where things kind of fall apart because they need to, because you got to break up the mental models enough and get soft and gushy enough for something new to come in and restructure things. So there's that. How long do you stay with it? That's a great question, and the answer is I don't know. I think that's dependent on each person and their circumstances and maybe the potency of their question. Maybe the potency of the question, right? You think about some people, what was that woman's name who was doing all the DNA research? She totally didn't get credit.
Oh, Rosalind Franklin?
I can't remember. I think she was doing corn.
Rosalind Franklin?
She was involved with corn.
Oh, corn? DNA corn? Should we just look this up?
Yeah, I want to say McClintock or McCullen or McSomething. Barbara.
Let's see.
Barbara McClintock. There we go.
Oh, Barbara McClintock. Yeah. Oh, cytogenetics of maize. Oh. Uh-huh.
Okay. It's like, how long do you stay at it? Her whole life? She didn't get credit for her tremendous work either, but she got to do the work, right? How long do you stay with a good question? Potentially your whole life. I had a question about 30 years ago. How does acupuncture work? I had a nice job in high tech. I had a comfortable living. Life was good.
Why'd you leave? This question was too good.
How does acupuncture work?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing led to another, led to another, led to another, led to another, led to another. I've been in practice for 26 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Guess what question goes with me every day into clinic? How does acupuncture work? How's this stuff work? So how long do you run the experiment? As long as you want with a good question, I think. I suspect you've got some really potent questions yourself.
Do I?
Being the artist you are, being the PhD scholar you are, being the creative person you are, from a family of creative people, I bet you've got some really, so let me ask it this way. Lan.
Yeah.
What's a question that you had 20 years ago that you still noodle on a regular basis today?
Well, it's it's more of it sounds a little bit more like sportsmanship. The question is, can I do it?
Oh, that is a great question.
Can I do it?
Yes. Can I do it? Oh my God. It's one of my favorites too. It is.
It's like, well, it's like, is it possible?
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then
right.
no one else can answer that for you.
And here's the thing about answering it. The joy is not getting the answer. The joy is finding out. Can I do that?
And then once I've done it, I just kind of forget. And I'm on to the next. It's a little bit of a, I definitely feel I feel akin to like a Don Quixote. I'll just keep running. I'll run with my horse. I'll fight the windmills, and then I'll shout at whatever monsters I see. But not in a, well, that's what it feels like. But it's done with a lot of care. It's not like I still have a bullshit meter. Like there's a lot of people puff up their chests all the time. When they're at a university, if they have a reputation, they rely on the reputation.
That's the currency of academia, isn't it?
And they don't care about trust. It's rotten. Should I say that to my employer? Well, sometimes it's like, not always having value anymore. Really, it doesn't always have value, or maybe it's just not the value that I hold. So, but yeah.
Can I do it? It's a great question.
Often I do. I guess that's the curse is that I. Well, we'll see. Like one of the big questions right now is next, and at some point, even offline, if you have ideas for this or if you have questions, I'm supposed to be helping to organize our big International Asian Medicine Conference next year in DC. I've never done it before.
What kind of conference are you organizing?
It's called the International Congress of the ICTAM of Traditional Asian Medicine, and it's not like ASA, although I wish I could go to an acupuncture society conference one of these days, but it's supposed to bring together Asian practitioners from all places and the scholars and see if we can talk to each other.
Has this been done before?
So this is our 11th conference, and we do it every 2 years. The last conference was in Taiwan. So Sarah Rivkin, who got us in touch, she was at the conference in Taipei. And now the question is, if we do this in DC, what can we do? What kind of research can we support? What kinds of communities and relationships can we create? I would love to, have some long-lasting, well, it's again, the conference is an excuse to create relationships outside of it. It's a temporal thing. It's like our meridians, our jingluo. It's outside of our bodies. Conference is just it's a touch point, but it's about everything happening around it.
Yes. And what happens after it.
And so if I can speak.
So it's catalytic.
Definitely what happens after. So it's definitely a catalyst. So if you have ideas or questions or a vision or something.
I do.
Let me know, because my question is, can I do it? Can I do it? So, yeah.
Yeah. I do have a question. I've got it's like my favorite question. So I'm going to share it with you now because it's front and center. My question is about the role of uncertainty in medicine.
Not failure, but uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
What do you mean by uncertainty? I'm not sure.
Oh my God. Anyone goes to see any doctor of any stripe, and the question is, can I be better? Can I get rid of this thing that's bothering me? Or there's something I don't have and I want to get it. Can you help me get it? Am I capable? Are you capable? Hey, doctor, are you trustworthy?
The liminal space.
How do I know you're trustworthy? And from the practitioner side, the question of who is this? First, you have to understand something about your patient. Who is this? This is one of the beauties of Chinese medicine, as I understand it, is who is this person who's having this, air quotes, illness? You need to understand who the patient is and how they are. Are they damp? Are they hot? Are they dry?
Dampness here.
I mean, and that's just one of the screens. There's other kinds of screens we can use, right? We have a number of different maps that we can use to chart where things might be and how they might go. We have different maps of development. We have different ideas about treatment. Uncertainty is always there. Will this treatment help? Will this patient be able to digest it? Will they take the information from the needles and use it in a way that I, as the practitioner, think will be helpful? Or do they take the experience that they've had and make a whole different story and meaning out of it than I'm making? And so ultimately, I'm not going to be helpful. I can give you an example. I had a woman who came for back pain, and she responded very well to acupuncture. She got off the table in the first treatment and said, she looked at me, she goes, is it possible my back pain could be gone? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
you're like,
tell me about your back pain right now. And she's like, there isn't any. It's like, oh, well, it sounds like right now you don't have back pain. Let's see you again in a week and how things are. So I treated her for a bit and her back was getting better, but she ultimately had to stop treatment because now she was having problems because she was becoming more sensitive to insulin. She was diabetic. She was becoming more sensitive to insulin, so she needed less insulin, and she didn't want to muck with the medications that she was taking, and the acupuncture had the side effect.
That's the thing.
Of helping her with her diabetes, but she saw it as this is interfering with my medicine.
That's the thing.
So this is part of what I mean by uncertainty. How does the patient digest that experience for themselves?
And this, it's so interesting. Even that language of interference sounds so absolute. Like interference, it will, like it brings in a language of certainty. This will disrupt my insulin or this other medication. And that usually is also the language of stopping or of like creating obstacles and barriers to different forms of Asian medicine. Oh, is it not safe? We'll interfere with the drug. We need to center on the biomedicine. We need to center on the active ingredients. It can't interrupt. And we don't even know if like there's a kind of, I love that question of uncertainty because it is so necessary to at least highlight the role, the violence that certainty plays, because we really don't know. We don't know. Like we cannot, even if you say like the whole point, I've been thinking so much about, like biomedical physicians as diviners. You will get sick. Even when they say you have a diagnosis, the certainty that comes with that language, it excludes everything else. And it's both grounding, but really it's, you don't know. We cannot, it's so complicated. And if we rest on metaphor, if we have a language of metaphor, and if it's a poetic and an aesthetic and an ethic and all these things, like if we use that language, that allows us to engage with uncertainty if we see it for what it is. And that's, that's one of my big pet peeves or soapboxes. And I hope that the work does that. It helps to highlight the carving that certainty does, the language of certainty does. And that's what makes her not come see you. That's what makes her stop treatment, because somehow that is the more certain thing to do
for her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And not to say she should have agency. She should do whatever she wants. Like it's her body. She should do whatever she wants. But at the same time, right? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And I offered her a conversation about, well, would you like maybe have your diabetes get better? No, I don't want to mess with that. I'm here for my back pain. I'm not here for my diabetes. Okay, so that it's like, okay, I'll respect that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's still symptomatic. It's very contained. It's a really strict container. It's a very closed container. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's a certainty in it. And there's, generally speaking, there's comfort with certainty.
Mm-hmm.
So that uncertainty, kind of plays at the edges of learning and improvisation, I would say. And also, it's like naming the elephant in the room. Medicine is a very uncertain business. And
it is. Western
medicine has done a really great job of trying to eliminate certainty. We've got studies, we've got protocols, we've got evidence base. I mean, look, who wouldn't want some evidence? Like, show me this is going to work.
That language, yeah. Yeah.
I'm from Missouri, where this is the show me state. I'm all about evidence, right? Of course, in Chinese, zheng, evident, zheng can mean evidence, zheng can mean diagnosis, right? We treat based on a differential diagnosis. We treat based on evidence of what we're seeing. It's hopefully giving us a handle on certainty and uncertainty so we can be helpful to people. So there's that. But I just want to bring it a step back, that when it comes to our life, when it comes to medicine, when it comes to health, you can't separate it from a certain amount of uncertainty. It just is part of the landscape. And to try to do so, I think, using a word of yours, violence, it creates a kind of violence. It creates a rift. And so I try to not defang it these days. I try to be a little invitational to it, that there is an element of uncertainty. And
wow, defang.
That's fine. It's just one of our traveling companions.
There is just like a last thing. There is a bioethicist here, Gail Geller, who created a survey to see how good medical students are with handling ambiguity.
Oh.
And it decreases over time.
It decreases over time. Okay. I would love to see him administer that to acupuncture students, third-year practitioners.
Okay.
And people that have been practicing for 10 years or more. Acupuncturists. Chinese medicine people.
That uncertainty probably. So because Gail was, so she did, she was really close with Bob Duggan, who had started Thai Sophia here, after Bob passed away. So Bob was her practitioner. So she's very familiar with acupuncture and also works at the medical school. She's retiring soon, but I would suspect that what you would see there is an expansion of uncertainty. You're better at handling uncertainty. What do you think?
That's my hypothesis. That because of the...
That's so great.
...way that you have to think and be and do as an acupuncturist. Again, we're kind of playing with improvisation and learning. I think that's a piece of it. Or maybe you could use improvisation and learning as like, if you value that, how's your tolerance for ambiguity? My guess is high. And if you're...
I'm writing this down.
If improvisation and learning is not a key thing for you, then I suspect you'll see that correlated in lower tolerance for ambiguity. Just a guess. But I think one of the wonders of Chinese medicine is that you get a little more friendly with ambiguity. Like, it's okay. Is it this or that? Yep. Could be both at the same time. Because it always comes down to yin yang in the end.
There's a, like that almost, there's a kind of, so what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling in this is also that there's trust. That's what trust feels like. There's a bigger balance where trust can sit and trust can live. It's not about what you know, because we can't fully know what goes on with yin yang. Like we're just reacting to it, and we can kind of send these signals. I guess I'm not a practitioner, but there's a trust that there is. It just is, and we can't know, and that's okay.
It sounds like you've got a project for you to work on.
I don't know. I'll talk to Gail. I'm supposed to like send her a text anyway. She's great. Yeah.
Wow.
I have many thoughts. I feel like we just like have tea. I've got my tea here. I feel like, but I know it's been like
You're drinking it Beijing style. Look at you. It's in a pickle jar.
Yeah. In my little, it's like an applesauce jar. It's an applesauce jar. Again, shout out to Sarah if can help me get this. This is a tie guanyin. I just brewed some before we started.
Tie guanyin is my favorite. Isn't that a great name? Iron Goddess of Mercy tea. The Iron Goddess of Mercy.
So good. It is a great name.
It is one of, okay, so we're talking about metaphors and images and how they feel, and how they have a kind of energy about them. This is one of my most deliciously favorite teas, yes, but mercy, the Iron Goddess of Mercy, right? Not the soft, flowy rub. It's the iron, like, I got some mercy for your ass. Like, listen up.
I know, it's like...
I'm going to grab you by the scruff of your neck. Here's some mercy. Listen up. I love it. The Iron Goddess of Mercy.
Ruthless mercy.
Doing this for your own good. You're going to thank me. And it's a she.
She's,
right?
Yeah, she's not messing around. She's not.
She does not mess around. I just love the image. And sometimes you need that in clinic and in practice.
I wonder where it came from.
You need to bring some of that iron mercy.
A tie guanyin, an iron.
I do this with my patients on occasion. What does it look like for me?
What does it look like for you? Yeah.
Well, the patient who comes in goes, well, I just can't help myself. That Dr. Pepper is like my only delight in life, but it's ruining my digestion. And I'm like, well, just stop drinking it. But it's my favorite. Yeah, okay. Well, you have to decide between your Dr. Pepper and your digestion. Like, I'm not going to play the game. Sometimes I'm like that. Not always. I'm usually...
Do they listen? And they drop it. They drop the Dr. Pepper.
Not necessarily, but I let them know that they can't pull bullshit on me. No, you can't come in here and whine about that, because that one's easy and it's totally under your control. So you can whine to other people about this or that, but you can't whine to me about it, because I'm here to help you.
Iron mercy.
Iron mercy.
Just stop buying the Dr. Pepper. Just stop buying it. Don't go to Costco. Don't get the pallets of Dr. Pepper. Just
don't buy it, right? That's a good place to start. Don't buy it and don't keep it in your house.
Yeah. Hide it.
All right. If you really want it, then you're going to have to go down to the 7-Eleven, and go buy a single. Mm-hmm. And just like put some obstacles in front of yourself for it.
I wonder if this is a really good place for a ritual where you let go of something that you love for your own sake, where they have to just like, rather than just letting it go, they recognize you have nourished my appetite, and I know that you are destroying my stomach. But the way I let you go, and then you really let it go, and that's so hard. It's heartbreaking.
Oh, man. Okay. Thank you. I was missing that piece. Like I said, I can be kind of a jerk sometimes, and sometimes in clinic I am. Just like that. Just like I was. You have nourished my appetite, and to let it go is heartbreaking. Inviting in some heartbreak is just fine.
Because you'll have to needle something on the heart pulse probably next week when they let it go, they'll be sad. I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe the gallbladder, so they've got the courage and the strength.
Maybe the yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gallbladder.
Yeah.
Gallbladder.
Gallbladder is part of the iron mercy, actually.
Oh.
Because gallbladder is all about boundary, right? Gallbladder is like, here's a line in the sand, don't cross it. Or here's a line in the sand, yeah, cross it, come on.
Wow.
I dare you.
Huh, I dare you. Huh. It's, gallbladder is, okay, huh. I don't get my gallbladder needled that much. Maybe I need more. I can ask. Or maybe not.
Well, I don't know. Look, you maybe, but you seem to be able to live a life that is enjoyable to you and creative and challenging, and you're all over the world doing interesting projects, finding out if you can do it.
Sometimes I can't. Maybe I shouldn't always find out, but.
Oh, no, it's great. It's great to want to go find out. I mean, that's heart joy right there.
That sounds like
Isn't it? To go find out, to be on an adventure.
Huh.
Heart joy.
I like that. I'll keep telling myself that, even though my acupuncturist will say, your heart is a bit depleted today, but for different reasons, right?
Heart joy. Here's a great combination. It's a clock opposite, and it's a real favorite for me. Gallbladder and heart together. Gallbladder 34, heart 8.
Is heart 8 on here?
So heart 8 is right on the palm. It's right on the palm. All right.
Oh, I've had that before. Oh, that can hurt sometimes. PC on the wrist. I think PC 7, whatever was over here.
Yeah. PC 7. Yeah, that's more on the wrist. And you got PC at lao gong, right? Like right in the middle of the palm. But heart 8 is over here. Heart 8's over here. Powerful, right? It's fierce. So like in.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. See, I've gotten this needled before a couple of times.
Yeah. It'll bring you down. But anyway, like heart and gallbladder, I think that's a really potent Jingluo, Dragon Phoenix-y, they're good dance partners. Gallbladder and heart. They're good dance partners for creatives in particular.
Okay. I will explore that.
Okay.
That is my next adventure. I see my acupuncturist in a couple of days. We'll talk.
Okay. Of course. Yeah. Let me see what they have to say.
I like that.
I might go,
yeah.
Never heard of that. That's crazy.
No. I think, no. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Chris Hammond. He's been really, really great on this journey.
Okay.
So I'll ask about that. Yeah. The boundary and the iron mercy.
Yeah. So this is, yeah.
And the heart nourishing, heart joy.
So this just comes from my own improvisation and learning in clinic, and like.
Really?
Yeah. And this actually came from a friend of mine, David Engstrom. He was the first one to tell me about gallbladder 34 and heart 8. He said it's kind of, he described it as it's kind of like a 4 gates for like the deep emotions. And yes, over the years, I have found it to be a really potent, like both kind of for emotional release, but also because you have this internal connection that's now lit up and strong. You strengthen the internal connections, and so.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Huh. Oddly enough, I haven't done this combination in a while.
I'll ask about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've been working with some other acupuncture techniques that I've been like wanting to learn. So I've just been putting my attention on them, because when I go to learn something, I just like focus on it. Try not to do other things so I don't muddy the waters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad we're talking about this. Maybe I could. Yeah. Let me know.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know on Thursday. Maybe it'll fuck me up. I don't know. Maybe it'll not. Maybe I'll come in and be like, I went on all these adventures. No, I don't think it'll. Well, we don't know.
Well, I mean, you're already kind of it seems to me you're an adventurous kind of person anyway.
And it's the yin wood snake year. I'm okay with like planning an adventure. So I don't need to. We'll wait for is next year the yang wood horse?
It is the yang, I think it's a fire horse, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a fire horse. Ooh, buckle up.
A fire horse, right? Yeah, fire horse. So yeah, well, I don't know. I can blame you, or yeah, I can circle back this conversation to see what happens next year, because I am thinking about, low belly to the ground, yin wood, keeping it. But who knows? Maybe it is time for a heart 8, gallbladder 34 combination. I don't know, but I'm willing to find out.
I think I don't know is a great place to start. It's a terrible place to end, but it's a great place to start. Because then you get to go find out.
Agreed.
And learn and improvise and maybe make some art while you're at it and bring other people along and have interesting conversations.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll come to St. Louis. Why not?
What are you going to do in St. Louis?
I don't know. You said like Missouri is the place of the evidence, heart, like.
We're the show me state. We have good barbecue.
It's the show me state. Yeah. If you have good corn, well, I don't really eat a lot of red meat. I'm not really a meat if I need to. Anyway, but yes. But yeah, no, it would be a good journey to figure out what that needle combination would do.
So in your investigation of the meridians in neurology that goes back a whole bunch of centuries, anything about the heart and gallbladder come up that comes to mind for you?
More about the spleen. I've been really into the spleen, where mostly because when I was in grad school, I would wake up and feel like everything was too impossible. And I felt like I was injuring my spleen from all the overthinking, and I didn't know what to do about it.
You were. It's part of the landscape of study. And
when I started the postdoc and I was feeling more like I was a historian of neuroscience, I always wondered about the limits of categories of emotions in, like, let's say biomedicine, where the emotions are always in this special corner where people don't know what to do with. Like it's the opposite of the rational mind. And what I thought was so interesting about emotions in these, let's say, like acupuncture these Asian sources, was that overthinking was already a kind of emotion. It's not outside of it. It's a kind of thing that you can name. You can sit in it. You can, ruminate on it. You can use it, and it destroys you, like anger. It hurts you.
Mm-hmm. Any of the emotions, they have their sort of liberating aspects, but they also have their tyrannical side.
Mm-hmm. Fear.
And the thing that's wonderful for me about Chinese medicine, East Asian, I don't know, what are we calling it this week? What can I call it this week? No, I can't.
I don't know. We can call it whatever you want. What you practice. You can call it East Asian. You can call it, Asian is too capacious. You can say acupuncture. We know. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. The middle. Yes,
anyway, whatever it is. Zhongyi, we're going to call it Zhongyi. We'll just call it Zhongyi. We'll call it the middle medicine. Zhongyi, we're just going to call it middle medicine. The middle medicine. One of the things I love about it is how through the ganging, the resonances of the phases and the colors and the sounds and the organs and the emotions, that the emotions have a place to be. Like you were saying, in in Western physiology, in Western medicine, there are these kind of free-floating, is it in the brain? Well, we can find traces in the brain. You could maybe make an argument for it being a brain chemistry thing. They do that with, to prescribe SSRIs and that kind of thing. But if you ask people to point to where their emotions are, they'll go, well, it's like, it's kind of outside me. It's kind of inside. It's this
subconscious. It's a conscious, subconscious. It sinks, it surfaces.
Subconscious. Okay. So like you can't even think about it because you can't be aware of it, but you're experiencing it. So it's a very amorphous. Emotions are very amorphous. In middle medicine, they're part of a whole. Structure is not quite the right word. Hierarchy is not quite the right word. But there's, it's like interlocking parts that become wholes.
Mm. You grasp it. It matters. It's not out of reach.
It's not out of reach. It's like partly physical and it's partly non-physical. And that's not a contradiction.
Mm.
They're just different aspects.
Mm-hmm. Mm. You can think about it. You can respond to it.
Yeah. And it will affect your physiology for sure. Like you were talking about with the overthinking and how it made you ill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Anger makes people ill. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Longing. I don't know what I remember there was Hugh Shapiro wrote this article on 神经衰弱 that becomes 神经衰弱, but it's like about like excess longing will drain your kidneys. And I was thinking about that. I was like, if I want too much of a future that I can't grasp, I'm sure that'll make me sick in different ways, but it does drain you. It is depleting to want something too much and to not have it right away. Yeah.
To want it too much. And it also is a problem to not have enough longing to like pull you forward into something, right? Like, can I do this? There's a kind of longing in that. So not too much, not too little.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. This yin yang stuff. It's this balance. It's like I trust in it, but can I? Well, do I know the way? I don't. I mean, yeah. As a messy human.
As a messy human.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You've been doing some cool stuff as a messy human. I'm looking forward to seeing your book. And
oh, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
And congratulations on this podcast, because this is really it's world changing. Like you're creating a home for these kinds of conversations. So thank you so much for including me and inviting me in on this.
Well, thanks for stopping by and having a little tia guanyin.
Ooh, yeah. I hope you have some too.
I do, but it's not in my cup right now. I'll have some a little later.
Oh, it's in your fist.
That's right. All right.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Until next time, then.
Thank you.
Perhaps not too surprising that a discussion initiated by an improvisation on the meridians would in turn become an improvisation on life, learning, and a turn back to the pivot of the essential question, can I do this? This, for me, this question, can I do this? I suspect it's what launches any voyage of discovery, any love affair, any challenge worth testing your capacity, maybe anything that calls the human spirit to unfold and become. It can't not touch this question. I love how Lan's journey with exploring the meridians begins not in China, but Brazil, and how the Jingluo span the imagination from subtle physical structures to metaphors to something shared between persons, heaven, and earth. The channels, the Jingluo, have captured the imagination of practitioners for centuries. It's a meme that has come down through time to this moment, and I suspect if you're an inquisitive practitioner, you too approach them with an element of uncertainty and discovery. I'm curious, what is your sense of the meridians? How do you experience them in your own life and in your practice? Drop me a line or a poem or a story, or if you're visual, a picture, painting, or sketch. I'll share these in a later podcast. I'm curious to know about your improvisation of the meridians. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Geological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Geological.